All right. Hey, everyone. It's Colleen Gallagher here with the Colleen Gallagher podcast. We are a top 400 podcast in spirituality with the intention to be a space that you can come and tune in to receive a frequency that will activate, educate, and empower you to begin living a lifestyle you love that supports you financially. If you are returning, oh, hey. And if you're brand new, well, hello and welcome. Health and wellness, spirituality, and business became a passion of mine because I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer at age 14. And after 9 long years of suffering, I self-healed my body, mind, and soul. So in these episodes, I bring you my own voice, as well as people I meet along my journey to offer perspective, inspiration, and real life proof that when you choose to follow your dreams, you say yes to what is inside your heart, that you will begin to create a lifestyle that is wildly impactful, fulfilling, and abundant beyond your wildest dreams. We cover topics from health and wellness, digital marketing, new age spirituality, global development, and pop culture current events. So get ready, tune in, subscribe, and make sure to leave us a review to let us know what you're loving. You can always email us on my website, www.colleengallagher.co, to request episode topics and let us know how everything's going. I love you, and thank you for being part of this collective community. I'm so excited for the day I get to meet you and give you a hug. And with that, you guys, I'm super, super excited to bring on Joe Ingram. He is a sales genius with career sales of $1.4 billion. He's an author of The Art of Communication. He oversees 25 clients across the nation. He has the Sales Genius podcast. He's been a friend and ally of mine for 3 or 4 years now. And I'm super excited to bring him here around the topic of sales and around how everything we do is sales, everything we share, every branding, every connection, and how we can begin to create this habit to really grow our mission. So Joe, I'm super excited you're here and welcome. And yes.
Hi, Miss Colleen. So happy to be here. Yeah, it's been 3-4 years. I know.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things. It was just like, oh yeah, click. We're best friends. How did that happen? Yes.
Exactly. And so I wanted to kind of start out because I know a lot of people, I shouldn't say a lot of people, but quite a few people in this community, when you ask them when they find me sales, they're like, oh my God, it's like so gross. It's used car salesman. And I've always known I wanted to be in sales since I was younger because I knew it was like uncapped income and I can travel the world. That was why I was like, so
Absolutely.
that's what hit my bucket for sales. And so I wanted to see what inspired you to get in sales. Then obviously now where you're at in your career, what inspires you to teach people about it?
Fantastic. So the first thing you have to look at when somebody has that internal block about sales, right, where they sit back, they're focusing on themselves, not about what the product will do for the prospect. And so when I deal with people a lot, they're like, oh my, it's the same thing when it comes to public speaking, where they go, oh, I'm so scared to speak in public. And you go, why? Well, I don't want to screw up and I don't want to look stupid and I don't. And the same thing happens in sales. If you focus on the other person, okay, so in the world of sales, I choose to play more of, there's a book out there called Challenger Sales, and it breaks out the different types of salespeople. And I'm more of a challenger salesperson, which means I will challenge the status quo. I will act more as I am here to guide the prospect as somebody who's trying to sell them something. So I'm perfectly okay with stepping back and saying, well, actually, you realize this probably isn't the right product for you. I'd recommend you go talk to Colleen over at this company. And so again, it takes the pressure off of what's there. And again, if we apply the internal pressure and think we're doing something icky, we're going to come off as something icky to whoever we're talking to. And so I look at that and say, sales to me was unlimited income. Okay, what it offered me compared to everything else. So I'm an electrical engineer by degree. And so that meant I went into aerospace manufacturing and I was sitting there next to somebody who does the same job as me, who's on the same pay scale, but has been there forever. And then as I progressed up into management, I realized there were people working for me that because they had been there longer, achieved the same compensation rate that I did. And I was responsible for 25 people and running crews for, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I have the same responsibility as the person who's punching in and out in an 8-hour day, and we're making the same amount of money. And to me, that was like, wow, this hurt. And I was lucky enough to transfer jobs. And the owner of the company I went to said, tell you what, I'm going to give you your salary, but I'm also going to show you what it would be if you took the commission plan to do that. And he showed me at the end of that first month, and I have never gone back to salary since then, because I was truly compensated for what I brought to the table and my work effort, right? So as soon as you say, oh, I'm going to go out there and outwork somebody, you get compensated in sales for outworking somebody.
Yeah.
And that to me was, wow, I'm actually getting paid what I'm worth because I determine it, not what the company determines this job pays.
And I love that you shared that because, I grew up in a way where I didn't know anything different than, you got a corporate job. Like the way I was raised, like you got a corporate, 400 or 500 company job, which I did, making 68,000 salary and, then benefits. It was like around 100,000. That was good, and I'm like,
right.
And this was whatever. But I realized, and even though I was a sales when I still made commission, I was like, there's just something missing here. There's something where I'm selling products I don't want to be selling just to make money that I, is supposed to make me happy. But a large portion of my life, I'm doing things I don't want to do that make me happy. So this is when I began to look at you as the walking salesperson, like you for yourself, no matter what, you are the brand, you are the salesman or woman that even if it's in a corporate career, even if it's not in a corporate career, if you're creative, you are always going to be the one selling you. You are always going to be the one that's either going to push yourself ahead and bring people with you, or you're going to stay stuck and frustrated. Yeah, and so I love what you shared, because it's so true. And I think when those of you listening, the key that you said, if you're like, oh, but sales is gross or public speaking, it's like, no, but you're making it about you. Because if you believed that you were here to help other people, and if you could see that when you were in so much pain and you were suffering, that there was someone that pulled you out, and why wouldn't you want to give that back or contribute that back? Like, that would actually get to the core of a lot of mental suffering and like everything. But yeah, so I love what we shared. And I think the next thing I kind of want to go into is, what do you think is the biggest misconception around sales? Because I feel like we talked about it a little bit, but I think people do have this idea of like, oh, it's either this luxury lifestyle that are rich people that are, flying around or doing whatever, or it's sleazy. Like there's no like, I don't know. There's no like middle picture. Yeah.
So the biggest misconception is that people believe they're not salespeople. Okay. Everybody is a salesperson. There was a saying that I heard 20 plus years ago that said, every time two people meet, one of them's being sold. And I was like, and again, my first answer was, I can see that. And then later on, I tried to explain it. And then it was like, well, maybe I don't understand it. And then I started digging deeper. And when I started going into human psychology and watching the way people interact, you don't have to be selling a product. A lot of people meet with someone else and sell them their story as to why they're where they're at now. And so they sit and tell you, well, let me tell you what happened to me. This is what happened to me. And it's because of this and this and this. And that's why I only make this much money. And because this happened, and this is why I'm only here in my life. And this is why I'm not as successful. And that's what they're selling. They're selling it. And what they're waiting for is the nod of the head. The other person sitting there. And then when you go, the reason I'm not a billionaire is because my mom. It's because of my cousin who yelled at me once, or it's because that boss was intimidated by me and fired me. And then as you did right now, where you not, as soon as they do this, they go, oh, good, someone believes me, and it validates my own story. And that's what they're selling, is the approval of, allow me to stay where I'm at. Allow me to stay where I'm at. Right? Because if you agree with me, then I can say, because see, Colleen said yes. She said it was true too. So now it validates. So we're all selling. Okay. And everybody gives the example. Oh, I'm out selling. When you go see a movie you like, you tell everybody that you like it, and you give your opinion, whether they ask for it or not. And then based on their viewpoint of view is whether or not they're going to take that as something credible to validate them to go see it. So I look at it and say, how big do you sell something? How do you do things along the way? And they go, I don't sell anything. You know who says they don't sell anything but are great salespeople? Customer service people.
Yeah.
Customer service people are so used to pleasing customers that the customer will come back to them and say, you know what, I really need this. And they're like, oh, we have that product. Hold on. And then they tell that customer, we have this, send over a little work order. The customer signs it, send it back, and they'll go, it's so easy. I don't even know why the sales department complains. And you go, you weren't there to sell. You met them in a good place when you solved their problem for them, and then you just send over a piece of paper that matched. Nobody had to go into a sales routine, but yet they'll come back and go, sales is easy. I don't know why these people are. Well, it's not your source of income and it's not where you are, but you have the ability to recognize it. Yeah.
So hold on, I want to dissect this because this was, wow. I mean, this is like gold nuggets, Joe. Like, okay, so one, I totally agree. So this is like, let's even bring this into the power of social media. So it's a little bit more relatable to people in this audience. But so with this, right, you would have, let's say, me or you, if you go to our social media, who we've built for years, obviously we've put a lot of effort and work in for years. So it's not ironic for someone to come across our profile, will make, $500, $10,000, a few $100, like whatever. That's not, I'm not saying it didn't just happen overnight, but it's not out of the norm for that, because There's years of content that people have been watching and consuming and building trust and believing and seeing the growth and seeing the energy.
Absolutely.
So but if, let's say, someone was to come in as a team member under my brand and they're just to be like messaging or responding to DMs or whatever, and they get it, they would be like, wow, this is so easy, I could do it. But they're missing the years of experience that, a salesperson has put into it. So one, that is just so profound. And I think that's like a good metaphor. And then two, the thing that I want to highlight is that this experience of the sales, let's say, not the customer service, but something like you and I, where we've devoted our life into something greater. And how does someone who's just starting begin to build for that type of impact or that type of sales or that type of reach? Like, what would you say is the biggest thing they could do to begin building that or creating that?
So experience is the best teacher. So if you're going to take a subject that you know because you've experienced it, it's literally about you explaining what happened. Okay. One of the most impactful video styles today is somebody who is staring off the screen, answering a question to somebody. And then you put that video up. There doesn't even have to be somebody on the other side.
Yep.
Okay. It's just me looking over and going, actually, that's a great thing. When people do, have an issue with this, and then all of a sudden it's just, you get your answer out. And all you're doing is trying to find the people that resonate with you. Because truly, right, I've been in sales for 30 years. There's nothing new.
Yep.
Okay. It's the same stuff. Okay. But the difference is, can someone articulate it in a way that resonates with you and comes across, right? My 4 steps to sale is like, listen, believe, and buy. Because if I make it harder than that, right? There's people out there going, I have 10 steps to a sale. I have 15 steps to a sale. I go, don't do 12, because 12 steps is a recovery program. Your whole team will be messed up, right? And so I tell them, so make it as easy as you can. Whatever you break out all your steps to be, it's going to go like, listen, believe, and buy. And so then if you look at that, can you put out a video about how people can be liked? Can you put one out on how people could actually find you and like you for what you say? And once they start liking you, for years, Colleen, you've been out putting out information. The people that watch you and go, I don't get her, they don't follow. They move on. So you've done enough, right? It's not about being perfect. It's about getting it done. And so you get out there, and if you look at your videos now compared to what they were 2 years ago, you're like, oh, wait, this is different. Your courses, right? Even the style in which your books are being written has adapted based on your experience. And so how can you get to the point of articulating your experience so that others that will resonate with you can find you?
And I love that you shared that, because I feel like the excuse that a lot of people give, and this is why it's so powerful what you shared, is like, oh, I don't have experience, or I'm not a salesperson. I'm not this. And like the biggest misconception, which we just said, everyone is a salesperson.
Right.
And you already do have enough experience, like wherever your life is, like you started, like, even though, yes, you've done it for 3 decades, mine's 4.5 years, but my 4.5 years in the online space still went back to when I was 14, I had cancer. So I still had like 10 years of experience of doing things. I just never did it in a business sense. Always did sales, always traveled the world. And so what I want you to think of when you're listening to Joe and I is look at your own life. And I always say, like, look at it, write down what are the things that have either caused you the most pain and what are the things that have brought you the most joy. And then I want you to see this on a piece of paper, and your story, like what you're meant to be selling, what you're meant to be offering, is all going to be created in that. Like, it's already there. You already have it. And then you just hone in on your focus on only experiencing more of that. So you hone it on your craft more and more and more and more and more. And I think that's why what you're sharing is so important, because it's not like you need to like go do a 4-year degree, or you don't need to go do a whatever. Like, it's such bullshit. And like, I understand, even though coming from this PhD, but like, it's part of my soul mission. So we've already been in this in the podcast. Part of my soul mission, I'm called and whatever, but I'm actually not, there's still more education I do outside of my PhD that specialize in targeting, that I learn more than I'm in my PhD at times. So it's just
absolutely, but it'll help you round you out. And the fact that you have the letters there for those individuals that require that to give you credibility, that's fine. Okay. We all have a family member that's pretty wise. And when we sit and listen to them, we're like, wow. And they're like, I never went to a 4-year degree. I never went and did this, right? I hardly graduated. Life is a better teacher than most teachers. Okay. And so when I look at that, I say, let's go out there and do that. Okay. My passion has always been about sales and been about an entrepreneur. And I know I was listening to one of your other podcasts where you were talking about the importance of congruence. Okay. When I was 16 living at home, I got busted for not coming home one night. And my buddy said, oh, I was at his house. I said he was at his house, this and that, right? My dad came down and goes, you're going to tell me what happened? I was like, nah, I'll just take the punishment. And he's like, okay, you're going to wash any car I put in front of you, okay, for the next 30 days. And I was like, okay, we had 7 cars in our household. So I was like, that's 1 a week. And then my dad started going to the neighbors. And he was like, hey, you know what? Joey's going to be washing cars. So bring it by. So my whole Saturdays were in the driveway washing all of our neighbors' cars. And then, so I had a choice. I could look at it and be absolutely miserable, but I love cars. So I was like, I could be miserable, or what is this as an opportunity? So as soon as that month was up, I went out, made little flyers, and I sold car detailing to all of the neighbors that my dad thought was being funny to get me to make me wash more cars. And so that was my first business kind of thing, was to say, okay, fine. So at 16, I'm over here detailing cars to make myself extra money while I'm going through high school.
And I love that you share that, because that's like back to what we shared, is like, you can get started today because you always had the experience in cars. You just didn't have that focus, and that was your passion early on. And of course, then you could make a lifestyle career out of it, which is what you want, because you're spending a large portion of Joe's life in talking about and being in rooms that you want to have conversations in. So absolutely. I just think it's so important, and it's just so valid. And I think everyone needs to take more time to look at why, like, what your life has already done, and like, just make that happen more. Like, and you slowly do it. Yeah. And
well, look back at whatever experience you look back on. If you go, man, I hated this part of my life, skip it. That's not the one you want to make a job out of, right? Yeah. For the person who sits back and goes, I hate it every time somebody tells me what to do, and then you go get a job. And what do? They tell you what to do all the time. Okay. Yeah. When I went and got my degree and went and got a job, I work really hard and I can get a lot of stuff done, but I was not being congruent to the inner self, which was be your own boss. And it just validated it the more I went through working for other people. And the more I worked through other people, it was like, oh, but I'm like, I need to be in charge. And if I'm in charge, I'm okay, because then it's on me. And I don't care if I have 100 people working for me, I will get them to accomplish what we need, because as long as you know that each individual person you have working for you is just like a prospect, find out what they want and deliver it. Okay. And understand, I look at people, and so I'm the guy, I'm different than most people in sales. Most people in sales will tell you it's about relationships.
Mm.
That's not me. My answer is business is about results. Results will get you the relationship and solidify it much longer than, like, I had a guy that I used to work with, his name was, or he would sit back and say, well, I interview people, and if I want to go have a beer with them, then I'll hire them. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what happened to competence? What happened to ability? Whatever. His answer was, no, I just want to like everybody that's around me in the company. And then we would have issues in the company because those people weren't necessarily the best fit or had the right skill set.
Yeah.
And then you have to hire somebody else to make up for the lack of skill set this person has because you like to go have it. And I laughed because when he was hiring me, I said, I don't even drink. So check that off your list. And he was like, what? So it wasn't a super long relationship with it. And, you know, he immediately replaced me. Well, after I fixed everything, he replaced me with a buddy he'd like to have a beer with. And then the business fell and went very, very bad for a long time.
And I love I haven't heard this before, but I actually really agree with you about, you're right. And relationships aren't going to last unless you see results in between. And that's why it's so important that when you have relationships, and this is interpersonal or business, which I really think the two are the same, but when you have them, that you both have clear agreements on what it is you want, and that you both are following through on that. Because the moment that you begin to not do that, that's when results crumble. And that's like what you said, like it doesn't really work. And so the next thing that I wanted to go into, which I think is really important, and you talked about it a little bit here, but obviously you know, your first business was always detailing. So it was like, I made little cards and went and had them out, and, you know, and then, you know, my business has always been virtual. Like I've kind of designed it that way, maybe because I feel like I'm socially awkward, or I don't know. I like the virtual world, but I love to.
You have a laptop lifestyle. That's why it goes better that way. Yes.
But I think that, what do you think is the big differences between virtual and in person? Because there is a difference, 1,000,000,000%. There's a difference. And I'd love for you to share about it, because I think also people think like the virtual world, if you're not, it is like this mystical, defistified thing. And it's like, there's similarities between the two, but there is differences. So I'd love for you just to kind of go through them.
Absolutely. And I think truly you have to stay where you're most comfortable. Okay. I am literally comfortable in both arenas, whether we're going to do something digitally or we're going to do something percent. And I think if you build a successful digital business, setting up an event for people to come and meet in person is an amazing thing to bring people in. So I started a separate business. So I have probably like 11 things that I juggle at one time. So the separate thing was I built online groups for people to connect and meet before they meet in person. But it's for business. It's for keeping the small businesses in business. So I, you know, me and the way I work, your brain, you've listened to enough of me that I believe we're going to have another thing come down and shut us down again as a society. And so what I saw when society shut down was that small business got hurt. Right. And so my thought was, if we put everybody together in a digital space where they can get to know each other enough, then we can keep those small businesses open. And those are the ones that we go and visit when it's a face-to-face meeting, right? And things like that, or to order from in the future. So to me, the virtual business allows you unlimited reach. Okay. So like I have clients in New Zealand that I have never met. And the only thing that person did was watch me on LinkedIn. For 1 year, he never clicked like, he never sent me a request to do it. He just followed and watched. And a year later, he hit me up on my website and said, hey, we just shut down because of, you know, COVID, and my people work at home. So now's a great time to train. And I've watched everything you put up and I love every bit of it. But it came through my website, not through where he was watching me. Okay. And so the answer was, if I hadn't set up regular posting on the virtual world, I never would have got this training. And I did all of it virtually. Yeah. Everything was just messed up trying to get the time zones right. Yeah. And so, but when you look at that, virtual allows people to technically meet you, and determine the like and the listen part of the 4 steps. Okay. And then when they get like and listen, they'll start to believe you, then they can buy from you. It usually takes more touch points in a virtual side to get somebody to buy from you. Where face to face, your actual energy that you put off is what's going to repel or attract people. And so again, if you come from desperation, you can sit back right now, we can sit back, turn off the cameras and redo a whole interview that's way more polished than just you and I talking. And we can go back and forth, but it's not raw and it's not real. Okay. But so digital, I can make everything perfect, which breaks the illusion, right? When I get to meet somebody in person. So you are 100% you, no matter what you're doing, right? I'm 100% me, no matter what I'm doing. And so when you look at that in digital, are you going to be real? Are you going to be authentically you? Because you can hide it for a while. And that's a lot of those people that get all the chargebacks and stuff, because once you realize this person can't, like my latest for the last week has been, you can walk the walk. That's all I look for. Can you walk the walk? Anybody can talk the talk. I can take everything in your last podcast where you talked, it was the one you did, where you talked about how to get energetically right with money. Okay. And you have a course on that. But if you weren't energetically right with that, you can make a video, someone could write you a script and you can read it off.
Yeah.
And then you read it off. And then if somebody were ever to run into you, go, this is not the same person.
Totally.
Okay. Or you get a video from somebody who's outside of where you're at, listening to you really talk and going, oh yeah, this person's fake.
Yeah. And I think what's really important in what you said, and I love it because I do believe it, like congruency is the biggest thing with the online world. So yeah, like you can't do a course like my Change Your Relationship with Money bundle or my Earn Income Online bundle, or I have all these different product lines basically for different things I've done, but you can't. If I was to teach a course on how to be married, obviously that's not something I've done. So I cannot do that. You know what I'm saying? Or if you're talking about, how to do something with cars. I don't even own a car. I don't like a car. I Uber everywhere. Like, it doesn't
And
so
you give psychology sessions to the Uber drivers.
Exactly. Yes. And I do. I make so much business in Uber. It's not even funny. I have so many clients. I always say I need to vlog on me doing sales in Uber because it's literally every Uber.
Just stick the phone up in the corner and tape all your rides. Yeah.
They get a book or they get a podcast or they download, and it's just so funny. So anyway, yeah, I really, really need that. But anyway, I so agree with you. And I think the biggest thing I've seen the difference between in-person versus virtual is that in person, it's your opportunity to find someone and right away you have to be more of an active participant and you finding what is it you two are meant to connect on. Is it cars? Is it sales? Is it travel? Is it beauty? And you have to put more of an effort into it. When it's digital, you can just show up and talk about what you want to talk about and people will just come to you. And the other thing that's important though to notice that when you are in person, you always need to be putting people back into your virtual, because the virtual is what's a consistent growing machine that's working on AI on your
virtual
behalf.
Is the easiest way to nurture.
Yes.
Okay. So virtual allows me to nurture many people, okay, without taking the time of doing one-on-one sessions and what have you. DMs are a great way to just go ping, ping, ping. This is what I recommend and do it. And it shortens a lot of the DM will shorten your sales cycle.
Yep.
Okay. And it will shorten up the actual amount of time. Because one of the things you look at and go, do I really want to do one-on-one coaching? Okay. Most coaches, they don't, right? I consider myself a trainer. My answer is I'm a trainer. I live it, I do it, and I will walk you through how to do it correctly based on experience. Yep. So I will come in and say, here, it's not a theory for me, it's something in practice. Yep. And so I will come in and I will train you the right way. But again, I don't want to do one-on-one training. I do one-on-one trainings with CEOs. So people that have their company already and go, how do I chisel away the stuff that doesn't work? So that's like my Saturdays. My Saturdays are back-to-back CEO meetings. During the week, I'm actually training people that are like the boots on the ground that are actually out doing it. So companies bring me in to train their sales staff to convert more prospects into actually sold deals. So I bring them in, but I have so many people that do face-to-face selling that leave digital aside.
Yeah.
And I'm like, guys, this doesn't make any sense. So I partnered with a company that does digital business cards. Right. And then I sit with the salesperson. I go, here's a digital business card. Boom, boom. It has a CRM attached to it. It costs you like $10 a month. And I'm like, but give me $20 right now. And they're like, why? And I said, because I'm going to buy you a URL. This will give you 2 years of a URL. And all I'm going to do is buy a URL that says, like, so for me, it's joescontact.com. So if somebody goes, hey, I want to get in touch with you, I go to joescontact.com. That points you to my digital business card. So I don't have to have a business card with me ever. And when I text somebody, here, go to this. I have Joe's info. I mean, everything I do, I just made it as simple as possible with a URL and point it where I want you to go. And so,
go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, but how easy is it to go to a client that you've sold before and text them and say, hey, just following up with you. I want to make sure everything's right. Here, put me in your phone.
Yeah.
Click here, and it pops, and my picture shows up, and you click it. It takes you there, and you go add to your phone.
Yeah.
Okay, because the big thing we always forget in sales is that we want to hand out our business cards to people, and we think we've done something. All of us sit back and remember going home and throwing away all the business cards that we had collected for whatever we went out to go do. So I want to be in your phone.
Yep.
If I'm in your phone, then you can find me when you want to.
Yes.
But everybody goes, no, I'm going to put Colleen in my phone so that I can stalk her, right? With, do you want to buy it? Do you want to buy it? No, I just want to be the one that when you go, hey, I need to, right? All my branding is Genius, right? For the sales Genius thing. So then I make my last name Genius in my contacts. But when you go to your phone, you go, what was that guy's name? I don't know. The guy was Genius. He's all full of himself. He thinks he's so smart. But when you go type Genius in your phone, I pop up. Okay.
Yeah. And that's like a branding, which is really, really important. And I love the other thing, I did look at your link. The thing that's really cool that you have too, is that when you go to that link, you let people connect with you on the platform that's best for them. It's not like you just have one platform, you have them all, which is also really cool in the virtual world, because I do have communities on so many different ones, and they're all different, and none of them are wrong and none of them are right. And they all bring me equal income over a period of time. You know what I'm saying? And so I love that you shared that. And I think kind of the last thing, just to like wrap up with everything, is I would think for the person who's listening to this and they're like, wow, like clearly I need to do something with sales, or I need to get going, because obviously like there's something here of like, get to talk about what you want to talk about, live what you want to live, uncapped income. You get to, connect with amazing people. Money comes in from what seems random, but it's not. What is the step for them, like to be able to connect with you also, but just what's the first step for them to go, I've got this, I can do this? Okay.
So one of the things that I think you need to understand if you're in sales, if you're in business, period, okay, you need to either make it really, really easy for people to get a hold of you, if that's what you want, right? Like you said, I'll meet you in whatever arena you want to talk to me in, okay? But the answer is going to be set up something that will filter them so that you can get somebody, pre-qualify more, okay? Because I can go, go jump on a Zoom with me by going to this link, because I have one of those too, right? But then I'm going to end up with Zooms all the time.
Yeah.
And it's going to be somebody who's like 12, and they're like, well, my dad said I should be in sales because I sold so much lemonade. And you're like, why am I on the call with this person?
Yep.
Okay, well, I'll still help them, but that's not it. So I always tell everybody, you go to thegeniuslinks.com. Okay, when you go to the Genius Links, you're going to see a whole bunch of stuff. And I'm like, watch the videos. There's a couple sample videos. Watch the video. It doesn't hurt. It's a video, right? Watch the video. And if I resonate with you, then go back and click on let's talk, right? But don't do it right off the bat to say, okay, fine. You've got one piece of me that's here with Colleen, okay? And so I will tell you, this is kind of me. I haven't replaced myself with anything fake or phony, but go do a little bit more research and say, this is someone I want to connect with. Yeah. But there's sample videos. And then for Colleen, what I put down at the very bottom, there's a little, it's blurred out. You can barely see it because it's designed that way. It says secret stuff at the bottom of the page. So go all the way to the bottom of the link page. It says secret stuff. Click on that, and that'll get you books on sales. It'll get you a couple trainings that I've already done and some video content, so you can look at and say, maybe this is for me, maybe it's not. Is Joe the right person to communicate with? Yeah.
And I will make sure that we put it in the show notes. It's really important. And I definitely want to share it to all of you guys. Make sure to subscribe to his podcast, the Sales Genius podcast. And I definitely think follow Joe and really listen to this episode a few times over, because even me, I need to re-listen to some of it, because Joe is so multidimensional in his layers. And I know a lot of you who are here, you're more on kind of the starting phase. And we do have some of you who are mid-level managers. So it makes sense, a lot of the things that Joe was saying, but you want to begin to think of your life, not on just how I'm going to make money, but how can I begin to make other people money? And how can I begin to create my life where whatever I'm doing is reaching everyone else to a new heightened level of success or a new way of experiencing life. And that, I feel like, is what you've really mastered in many levels of your communication throughout this podcast. And obviously, I'm sure in your, personal ones with your clients, I'm not in them, but I would think that any of you listening, like, it's definitely someone you want to consume, because this mindset is what's going to really be able to set you free to create a life that's out of your wildest dreams. So I just want to say I'm so grateful, Joe, and thank you so much.
I appreciate you.
And we'll make sure this goes live, and I'll tag you and we'll get you all the things. But I love you guys. Reach out to Joe, let him know you listened, and leave a review.